A stock RTR, even this RTR Lite, packs quite a punch right out of the box, and one might expect this considering the cost of this over all the others. Others like this is not out of the box. It's been fairly modified and performs a lot better than a stock one, but even so, this is still way under the cost of an RTR Lite. So why not see how they stack up? Now I know a comparison between these two isn't exactly fair and you're probably not cross-shopping them, but maybe you're eyeing the Mototec here and wondering by how much you're going to be slower or travel fewer than your friends with the RTRs. Or you're eyeing the RTR here and you want to know by how much you're going to be smoking your buddies with the Mototec. Or maybe you plan to build up a super sweet Mototec with all the go faster goodies so that you can ensure that you keep up or even outperform the RTR guys. Or maybe you plan to build up a super sweet RTR with all the go faster goodies so that you can ensure that you outperform everybody. This video might answer some of those questions, although probably not. First, some stats. The Mototec 60 volt Pro here is, well, 60 volts. It's rated at 2000 watts of power. It's got a claimed top speed of 40 miles an hour, although I know that's drastically overstated, and it has a claimed range of 18 miles. Compared to the RTR Lite, this is also 60 volts, so far so good, but then this quickly surpasses the Mototec rating at 5000 watts of power, a top speed of 45 miles an hour, and up to 20 miles of range. It's also taller, the suspension is stiffer, the bars are wider, the brakes are bigger. Why am I even comparing these? Well, like I said up front, this 60 volt has been modified here and there. I have videos on everything that I've done, so you can take a look at that later on, but the point is that all of this was done for well under the cost of an RTR. I think in total I have about $350 to $400 extra into this, making this bike as it sits about $1,700, which is $500 or so under the RTR Lite and $1,500 under the RTR. You could almost buy and modify two of these for the price of one regular strength RTR. So let's start by running this Mototec start to finish on a full battery to see how those stock stats have improved or diminished, and to see if it stacks up in any way to the RTR Lite. All right, here we go. We have our wide open space. I have a full battery. I have my GPS phone app on, so I have not only distance but top speed. Let's get into it. So I guess we'll start with the top speed run. I got a long runway and I can feel it already topped. See what that top speed was. 36 miles an hour, a slight improvement from what it was stock. Stock, I think it was just barely 30, maybe 31, 32, I think. So that top speed is only a slight improvement, even though I put a far driver in this and a few other things, but that's because the far driver settings that I put in are still fairly conservative. Like, it gives it enough acceleration and enough additional top speed that it's a little zippier than it is stock, but I'm still taking into account that I have a stock battery. Since I'm only working with whatever line amps the battery is capable of, I want to make sure that it's within a reasonable spec of that, so I'm not going to be overloading the battery and potentially pop this thing. But that's the flip side with the capabilities of this bike improved versus stock, because now that I have a higher top speed and better acceleration from this bike, it's still with the stock battery, so the flip side of that is my range is going to be diminished. The question now is by how much? Now, I'm not just going to be doing top speed runs back and forth in the parking lot. That's boring. I want to do normal riding, because that's what a range test should include, because you're not just going to be doing top speed runs or anything like that, so just ride it like you normally would. So not only am I going to go top speed, but I'm going to do some zigzags, go do a little bit of circles, make myself a little course, ride it like I normally would, just in a big old parking lot by myself.
20 minutes later.
I'm starting to get to the point where when I'm accelerating, I see 1 or 0 bars on my battery meter, so I'm pretty sure the battery is getting to be a little dead, although it still feels like it's got the acceleration. Either way, I'm sticking to my starting spot in the parking lot because I don't want to do the long walk back again. Every time I do these range tests, I swear, it always dies the furthest away from my starting point.
1 hour later.
Maybe I'm not giving this battery enough credit, because it's been a while. I think I've put at least a few more miles on this thing and it's still rocking. Like, the power delivery hasn't been diminished at all. It's still running like it's a full battery. I mean, I've been ripping this back and forth in the parking lot so much and just zipping through all these little obstacles and trees and things that my brakes are like cooked. Even with the big brakes. Man, this thing is really taking a beating.
3 hours later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.
Could it be? Could we finally be at 0%? Yep, I'd say this thing is very quickly dying. Yep, there goes. No throttle. Okay. Yeah, that was long enough that my butt is sore. This thing is a little too tiny for extended rides. What? That is 17.42 miles. So we gained 3 miles? So I thought about why this was, and I think it has to do with how I did my range test with this bike last time. Last time I was also in a parking lot, but in that case, I was going either full throttle or full acceleration the entire time. And this time, I wasn't going full throttle the whole time. I was using all of the throttle. I was going at slower speeds, coasting even, and I guess that much makes up that big of a difference. And keep in mind, this is with far driver changes here. So not only do we have a higher top speed, but we have more acceleration, and still we are over 17 miles of range. That is insane. I'm genuinely shocked about that. So maybe Electro & Co actually do have something to worry about here with the RTR Lite, because this again claims 20 miles of range. Will their claim be as close to the Mototec's? Time to find out. We got the same spot, same battery level. Let's get into this. As we get into this, I'm realizing now just how comparable this is to the 60-volt Mototec Pro because, well, first of all, they're 60 volts, so we got that going for us, but it also has the same kind of continuous amperage because with the battery controller that I've discovered with this, I know that it's an EM50, which means it has 50 amps. And that's what I have the Mototec set at, so they're both running the exact same line amps. That means there's really not that much difference between these two besides the battery and the motor, really. But I think it's time to see just how different that battery and motor can be. First of all, top speed run. It's showing 38, 39, 40. Come on, 41 before I have to stop. Nope, it stopped at 40. Let's see what the GPS speedo has to say about that. Well, looks like we went a little bit faster. This is showing 43 miles an hour as opposed to 40, so I guess there's a little bit of a difference between the actual verified speed and what's shown on the dash here, and that might have to do with the street setup as well. I don't exactly know how well that is calibrated. No, I'm kind of glad that the GPS on my phone actually showed a higher number than what was shown here, because if it was really 40 miles an hour and the claim top speed of this is 45, I was thinking, man, they really overestimate these, not just the Electro & Co, but Mototec as well. They claimed 40 miles an hour and I could barely get 30. Now that we know how close that top speed estimate is, let's find out how close the range estimate is. If it's anywhere close to the top speed, I'm gonna be here a while.
A few moments later.
Well, that ended that. All right, slight change of scenery, but we still got many miles to go. I only got like 3.5 miles over there, so another 16.5 to go, or more, hopefully. I think as we ride around, I'm also gonna try to understand, or see if I can understand anyway, the battery percentage on this dial, because according to this I've gone another 3.5 miles or so like 7+ total at this point, but it's showing 51%, and maybe that's just underestimating because I've been on it for quite a while. I mean, this last 3 miles or so has been pretty much just straight down and back on the parking lot, not much tight slow stuff like this, so I'm kind of seeing if going a little bit slower speed and not putting as much strain on the motor or on the battery increases it. And actually I am seeing it increase a little bit. It's up to 52 now.
Later.
Well, it's official. We reached the same mileage that we did with the Mototec, and this is showing 15% remaining, so I'm pretty certain that this is going to go at least another 3 miles, but let's see how far it ultimately goes. All right, I think we finally hit our limit. It's been flashing 0 for quite a while now, and I'm pinned. And I'm only going 16 miles an hour. Yeah, it's barely moving now. Oh, that is done. See what that actually equated to. All right, I'll take it. 22.79 miles. Looks like the RTR Lite didn't have anything to worry about. While it was under the claimed top speed, which might have to do with my weight, honestly, it exceeded the claimed mileage. And all this was done under normal riding conditions in the highest mode. So if anything, the mileage could be even better, provided I'm not full throttle the entire time. So then how to chalk up how these two did. Objectively, on a performance basis, that being top speed and range, RTR takes it, no question. But credit where credit is due. The Mototec here wasn't too far off from the RTR Lite. It was only 6 miles an hour slower and 5 miles fewer. But there's also the fact that the Mototec is heavily modified. The RTR here, besides the tires of course, is right out of the box. But yet again, even with all of the cost of the upgrades on this, it's still significantly cheaper than the RTR. So much so in fact that you could just add a bigger battery to this bike, which would not only improve performance, but range for about 550 bucks or so, and you would be at the cost of an RTR Lite. There is so much flip-flopping between these two, so honestly, I'm gonna leave it up to you, fair viewer. Do you want a cheap platform to build up without sweating the cost? Or do you want something that's plug and play, set it and forget it, that's more than capable? Or do you want the biggest and baddest despite the high cost of entry, or even the high cost of upgrades? I know my answer, which is none of those. With this build, it's still building the biggest and baddest, but ignoring the high cost upgrades and going for the untold, unspoken, low-cost upgrades. So be sure to follow along and see where this build takes us. In fact, I think the next video that I'm going to put out on this is going to be a single item that's under $10, and it's either going to be revolutionary and absolutely transform the bike, or it's going to end in a messy and, quite frankly, sticky failure. See you then.